I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. I was married to Emily for almost 6 years, and while we had our ups and downs, I believed our bond was strong. Friends would often look at us and say we had a relationship worth envying. Sure, we had the usual disagreements: who leaves the dishes in the sink, whether to binge watch another season of that show we both loved, or the never-ending debate about where to go for dinner, but nothing that felt insurmountable. Things started to shift a few months ago. At first, it was subtle. Emily became less attentive, spending more time on her phone rather than engaging in meaningful conversations. I'd catch her smiling at messages, but whenever I'd ask about them, she'd roll her eyes and snap back. "You're being paranoid, Jake. I'm just chatting with friends." I brushed it off because, hey, who doesn't communicate with friends? But then it escalated. One Friday evening, she told me she was going out with her coworkers for a team-building dinner. I had planned a cozy evening at home, just the two of us. When I asked if I could join, she quickly turned me down, saying it was just for the girls and that I wouldn't enjoy it. I felt a twinge of unease, but it was easy to dismiss it as just another night out. After all, we were open-minded individuals, right? That night, I decided to go for a run to clear my head. As I jogged through the neighborhood, I decided to swing by the restaurant she claimed she was at. On a whim, I peered through the window. My heart dropped. There she was, laughing with two men and a woman, her hand resting on one of the guy's shoulders. Was I seeing things? I couldn't process it. I turned and sprinted home, my heart racing, my mind spinning. I spent the weekend in a haze. The image of her laughing with that guy replayed in my mind over and over. What was going on? I decided to dig a little deeper. I tried to remember if there had been any other signs. Emily had started mentioning work events I'd never heard of, late nights, and networking opportunities. It all felt too convenient. By Monday, I had gone from "am I being paranoid" to "no, this can't be real." I needed evidence. So I sifted through her things when she wasn't home: her phone, her purse, anything that might tell me the truth. It was a violation, I knew, but the desperation to understand was consuming me. That's when I found it, a message thread with a contact saved as Mike that sent my heart plummeting. I opened it, and there they were, flirty exchanges and innuendos that left nothing to the imagination. It was clear they had something going on. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and heartbreak. I wasn't just devastated, I was furious. How could she do this to me? So there I was, standing in the living room, phone in hand, heart pounding like a drum. When Emily walked in later that evening, I knew I had to confront her. This was it. I would finally get the answers I needed. I could feel the tension in the air as she entered. She had that same smile, but it felt different now, like a mask. "Hey, how was your day?" she asked, and I could hear the casualness in her voice, as if everything was normal. "Not great," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "We need to talk." I took a deep breath, preparing for whatever was about to unfold. The truth had to come out, and I was ready, even if it meant tearing apart the life we had built together. Emily's demeanor shifted instantly. The smile faded, replaced by a flicker of apprehension that I had never seen before. She took a step back, crossing her arms defensively, and I could sense that she knew something was coming. My heart raced as I struggled to find the right words. "Jake, what's going on?" she asked, her voice laced with a hint of anxiety. I held up the phone, my hands shaking. "I saw you at the restaurant on Friday. You weren't out with coworkers, were you?" Her eyes widened, and for a moment I thought I saw a flash of guilt cross her face. "That's ridiculous," she said quickly, but I could hear the tremor in her voice. "You're being delusional. I was with Sarah and Lisa. You know them." "Those were not the people you were with," I shot back, my voice rising in volume. "You were there with some guy named Mike. I found your texts, flirting, suggestive comments. Do you really think I'd just make this up?" Emily's jaw clenched, and she took a step toward me, her voice suddenly cold. "You went through my phone? Wow, Jake, this is what you've come to. You're acting like a jealous teenager." "It's not jealousy, Emily, it's betrayal. I trusted you." She looked away for a moment, and I could see her mind racing. She was searching for an excuse, a way to twist my words back at me. "Look, I was just having fun. It didn't mean anything. You know how I get when I'm stressed at work. It's just harmless flirting." "Harmless?" I echoed, incredulous. You're telling me that flirting is harmless while you're married to me. You invited this guy into our life, into our marriage. It's not harmless if it's happening behind my back. Stop, just stop, she yelled, her frustration boiling over. You're making this into something it's not. I'm not the bad guy here. You're the one who needs to realize how delusional you're being. I'm not cheating on you. I'm not that kind of person. You're just twisting everything. Her words sliced through me. It was as if she was trying to make me question my own sanity. For a moment I felt that familiar pang of doubt creeping in. Was I truly overreacting? Was it all in my head? But then I remembered the messages, the laughter, the intimacy she shared with him. Emily, I thought we were a team. I managed to say, my voice quieter now, almost breaking. We built this life together. I thought you were my partner, but I can't trust you if you're doing this. She looked at me like I had just slapped her. It was like I had pulled the rug out from under her. You don't get to throw our entire marriage away over some text messages. I've been stressed and I needed a release. You're being unreasonable. That was the moment everything hit me like a freight train. I could feel the weight of her words hanging in the air and the realization washed over me. She was deflecting, minimizing, and outright lying. I had to take a step back and gather my thoughts, or I would drown in the chaos of her manipulation. I'm not throwing this away, Emily. You are. You've crossed a line that you can't come back from without being honest. I took a deep breath and tried to steady myself. I need time to think about everything. I can't just pretend this didn't happen. You need to figure out what you want, and so do I. With that, I turned away, leaving her standing there, stunned. My heart was pounding and I felt hollow inside. I had confronted my wife about her cheating, and instead of owning up to it, she had tried to turn it around on me. I needed space to process what I had just learned. I needed to reflect on our marriage, our trust, or the lack thereof. The emotional impact was overwhelming. I was angry, yes, but beneath that anger was a profound sadness. I had lost the person I thought I knew, the person I had loved. As I paced around our apartment, I felt like a stranger in my own home. The walls that once felt warm and comforting now seemed cold and unwelcoming. I sat down on the couch, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of everything. My mind was a storm of thoughts, and I realized I had to make a decision soon. I had to consider what I wanted moving forward, whether to salvage what was left of our relationship or to walk away and find a way to heal. That night, sleep eluded me. I tossed and turned, replaying the confrontation in my mind, the shock of her betrayal echoing in my thoughts. I needed clarity, but all I felt was confusion and heartbreak. Our life together now felt like an illusion, and I had to figure out what was real. The next few days felt like an emotional hellscape. I tried to go through the motions of work and daily life, but everything felt muted, like I was living in a black and white world while everyone else was in color. Conversations with friends were stilted. I couldn't focus on anything, and every time I heard Emily move around the apartment, my heart raced with a mix of anger and sorrow. She tried to engage me in conversation, but I kept my distance. Each time she reached out, I was reminded of the distance growing between us. It was like being trapped in a perpetual state of limbo, each moment dragging on longer than the last. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was still hiding something. She would often leave the room to take phone calls, and I couldn't help but wonder if Mike was on the other end of the line. One evening, I arrived home early from work. I noticed Emily's car was in the driveway, but the house was eerily quiet. My gut twisted as I walked through the door, looking for signs of life. Then I heard it, a muffled conversation coming from the bedroom. My heart sank as I crept closer, my body tensing with every step. It felt wrong to eavesdrop, but I couldn't help it. I pressed my ear against the door and listened. "I can't keep doing this, Mike," Emily said, her voice a mix of frustration and desire. "Jake is getting really suspicious and I'm scared he'll find out." My heart dropped into my stomach. She was still in contact with him. It wasn't over, it was just beginning. "Just be careful," I heard Mike reply, his voice low and reassuring. "You know what you want. Don't let him stand in your way. We can figure this out." It felt like someone had punched me in the gut. My mind raced and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Emily was not only involved with Mike but was also actively planning to continue the affair. I slowly pulled back from the door, my heart pounding. I felt lightheaded, almost dizzy. As I walked away, I knew I needed to confront her again, but this time it felt different. I felt a fire inside me, a burning need for justice, to reclaim my dignity. I couldn't let her keep lying to me. I wouldn't let her manipulate the narrative anymore. Later that night, when she returned home, I was waiting for her in the living room. The tense silence enveloped us as she walked in, her expression guarded. "Jake, can we talk?" she asked hesitantly. "Yeah, we need to talk," I replied, my voice steady but firm. "I heard you on the phone with Mike. This isn't just harmless flirting anymore, is it? You're still seeing him behind my back." Emily's face paled and she opened her mouth to protest, but I pressed on. "Don't even try to deny it. I was." Listening, Emily, I know everything." Her eyes widened and for a moment she looked vulnerable, almost scared. "Jake, it's not what you think." "I know," I interrupted, my voice rising. "It is exactly what I think. You're still lying and I won't stand for it. How long has this been going on? How can you say you love me while you do this?" She looked cornered and I could see the panic bubbling inside her. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I was going to end it. End what?" I spat. "You've already betrayed me. You've crossed a line I can't look past. The trust is gone, Emily." "I didn't mean to hurt you," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "I was confused. I thought we could work through it." "Confused?" I shook my head, feeling the weight of her excuses suffocating. "You didn't think of me when you were texting him, did you? You chose to keep that side of your life hidden from me. You made your choice." "Please, I can explain." "No more explanations," I said, my heart racing with a mix of anger and determination. "You've had your chances. I deserve better than this." The tears welled in her eyes, but I felt no sympathy. I had given her the benefit of the doubt, and this was what I got in return. It felt surreal to see someone I once loved so deeply reduced to this. Her walls were crumbling, and the reality of the situation felt both satisfying and heartbreaking. "I need to think," I said finally. "This time, I need to consider what's best for me. I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly questioning your integrity." With that, I walked out, leaving her standing there in the dim light of our living room. The door clicked shut behind me, and I finally felt a sense of clarity. I was done being passive. It was time to take control of my life and decide what my future looked like without her clouding my judgment. The emotional impact of this confrontation was still heavy, a mix of anger and a flicker of relief. I could finally see beyond the illusion of our relationship. I needed to think about my next steps, whether it would be starting anew, seeking a divorce, or perhaps something else entirely. But one thing was certain: I wouldn't be manipulated or betrayed again. I spent that night at a hotel a few blocks away from our home, and as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I was both terrified and liberated. I was on the brink of a decision, and I felt it in my bones. I was ready to reclaim my narrative. The following days felt like a whirlwind. I stayed at the hotel for a week, using the time to think and process everything. I didn't reach out to Emily. I needed that space. The initial shock of her betrayal had dulled somewhat, but now I was left with a searing anger and a critical choice ahead of me. During the day, I navigated through work, my colleagues oblivious to the storm raging inside me. At night, I would lie awake, the weight of the situation pressing down like a heavy blanket. I knew I had to confront the reality of my marriage. As much as it pained me, the dreams I had built with Emily were crumbling around me. One evening, I decided to call my best friend Mark. He'd always been there for me through the good and the bad, and now I needed his perspective. We met at a local bar, the dim lights creating a cozy atmosphere that contrasted sharply with my internal chaos. "Hey man," Mark said, clapping me on the back as we settled into a booth. "You look like hell. What's going on?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "It's Emily. I found out she's been cheating on me with some guy named Mike." Mark's expression shifted from casual concern to shock. "Dude, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you okay?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Honestly, I've been a mess." I confronted her, and instead of owning up to it, she tried to turn it around on me. "I just feel so betrayed, like everything I thought I knew was a lie." "Have you thought about what you want to do next?" he asked carefully, his eyes searching mine for answers I didn't have yet. "I don't want to stay with someone who doesn't respect me or our relationship," I said with a sudden clarity. "But part of me can't help but wonder." If there's any way to fix this, I cared for her, but I don't know if I can ever trust her again. Mark nodded, taking a sip of his beer. Trust is everything in a relationship. Once it's gone, it's tough to get back. You deserve better than someone who would cheat on you, man. You need to think about yourself for once. His words echoed in my mind as we continued talking. I realized I had been so focused on Emily's needs and feelings that I had neglected my own. I had to prioritize myself now. It was time to take the narrative back from her and rewrite my own story. That night, as I returned to my hotel room, I made the decision to confront Emily one last time. I needed closure, not just for her sake, but for my own. I texted her, telling her I wanted to meet up. I didn't know what the outcome would be, but I felt the urge to take control of the situation, to confront her without the walls of our home enclosing me. The next day we met at a quiet cafe. I arrived early and sat at a table by the window, watching the world go by as I waited for her. My stomach churned with anxiety, and I felt the weight of the past week pressing heavily on my chest. When she walked in, there was a moment of silence between us. The last time I had seen her, she had looked vulnerable and raw. Today she wore a mask of determination, her jaw set and her eyes defiant. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course," she replied, taking a seat across from me. "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Jake." "Yeah, me too," I said, leaning forward. "I need to understand what you really want. Do you want to be with me or do you want to be with Mike?" She hesitated, her expression shifting from defiance to uncertainty. I don't know, I've made mistakes and I don't think I can go back to how things were, but I need time to figure things out." "Time? You've already had time," I said, my frustration bubbling over. "You've made your choice. You chose to hide things. From me, you chose to betray my trust. How can I believe anything you say?" "Jake, please," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I thought I could keep everything separate. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I shot back, anger flaring. "This isn't just a mistake. You've hurt me deeply, and I don't think I can just move past it. You're asking for forgiveness when you haven't even acknowledged the full weight of your actions." Her eyes glistened with tears, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy. "I'm truly sorry for what I've done. I never wanted to hurt you. Can't we try to fix this?" I took a deep breath, my heart heavy with conflicting emotions. Fixing this means rebuilding trust, Emily. And right now, I don't even know where to start. You need to figure out what you really want because I can't be in limbo anymore. As the words left my mouth, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. I was finally asserting my needs and desires. "Maybe we need to take a break," I continued, my voice steadier now. "I need time to think without you trying to pull me back in with your excuses. It's not fair to either of us." She looked crushed, but I knew I had made the right decision. It was no longer about saving our relationship. It was about saving myself. As she nodded in agreement, I felt the weight of the world lift slightly off my shoulders. I stood up, ready to leave. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Emily, but I can't be part of this anymore." As I walked out, I felt a mix of freedom and sadness. I had made my choice, and while the road ahead would be challenging, I knew it was the right path for me. I was reclaiming my narrative, and no one could take that away from me. The days following my confrontation with Emily were a jumble of emotions. I had told her I needed a break, but it felt more like stepping off a precipice into the unknown. I took time to reflect on everything, pushing myself to embrace the solitude rather than drown in sadness. I was determined to forge a new path for myself. I moved back to our apartment, but it felt different. The walls, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with betrayal. I kept my distance from Emily, who seemed to be struggling to accept the change. She sent me messages, pleading for another chance and expressing her regret. Each time my phone buzzed, my heart would race, but I resisted the urge to engage. I had made my decision, and I needed to stick to it. One evening, I decided to clear my head with a run. As the cool air hit my face, I found solace in the rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement. I thought about my life, the choices I'd made, and the direction I wanted to take. I wanted to rediscover who I was outside of the relationship, to reconnect with the parts of myself that had been overshadowed by Emily's presence. That weekend, I reached out to some friends I hadn't seen in ages. We planned a small get-together at Mark's place, where we could catch up over drinks and good food. It felt refreshing to be in a light-hearted environment, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. As we laughed and reminisced about old times, I could feel the heaviness of the past few weeks beginning to lift. "Man, it's good to see you back in the swing of things," Mark said, clapping me on the shoulder. "You've been through the ringer, but I can see you're starting to find yourself again." "Yeah," I replied, taking a sip of my drink. "It feels good to be around friends. I didn't realize how isolated I had become." As the evening wore on, I opened up about what had happened with Emily, and they listened without judgment. Their support felt grounding, and I appreciated their perspective. "You deserve someone who respects you," another friend chimed in. "Don't forget that." That comment stuck with me as I returned home that night. I realized that my journey to find myself didn't just mean rediscovering old hobbies or reconnecting with friends. It also meant redefining my standards and what I wanted in a partner. But as days turned into weeks, Emily continued to reach out. I received texts filled with apologies and promises to change. Part of me felt sympathy. I had loved her once and wanted to believe there was still something worth saving. But another part of me felt the need to protect myself, to stand firm in my decision. I didn't want to be swayed by her words or the emotional pull of our past. Eventually, we set up a meeting to discuss where we stood. I agreed to meet her at a park, a neutral ground where we could talk without the charged atmosphere of our apartment. As I arrived, I saw her sitting on a bench, looking small and vulnerable. "Hey," I said, approaching her. "Hey," she replied softly, her eyes downcast. "Thanks for meeting me. I've been doing a lot of thinking." "Me too," I said, sitting down beside her but keeping a cautious distance. "I wanted to hear what you have to say." "I know I messed up," she began, her voice trembling. "I thought I could keep everything separate, but I realized how wrong I was. I'm truly sorry for hurting you. I want to change. I want to be better." I felt a wave of conflicting emotions wash over me. "Emily, I appreciate your honesty, but you have to understand that it's not just about saying the right things. Trust is something you've shattered, and rebuilding it is going to take more than words." "I know that," she said, tears welling in her eyes. "I've seen how much I took for granted. I miss you, Jake. I miss us." I searched her face for sincerity, but all I found was uncertainty. "What do you think it would take to fix this?" I asked, trying to gauge her seriousness. "I know it won't be easy," she admitted, "but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'll go to counseling, I'll give you access to my phone, anything. I just want a chance to prove myself again." The desperation in her voice tugged at my heart, but I had to be practical. I had to protect myself. "Emily, I need time. I can't just jump back into something that hurt me so deeply. I need to see that you're committed to changing, and it's going to take more than promises." "I understand," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I will wait. Just please know that I want to make things right." As we parted ways, I felt a strange mix of sadness and determination. I still cared for her, but I knew I couldn't rush into anything. It was a pivotal moment for both of us. She had to understand that love alone wouldn't fix the damage that had been done. Returning home, I reflected on the conversation. I was learning to prioritize myself and my happiness. I realized that my narrative was finally shifting. I was no longer the victim in this story. I was reclaiming my power, and that was the first step toward healing. I decided to focus on my own growth, setting new goals for myself. Career aspirations I had shelved for too long, hobbies I wanted to explore, and potential friendships I wanted to nurture. This was my time to rediscover who I was, independent of Emily and the shadows of our troubled relationship. I felt a spark of hope that perhaps, in time, I could find happiness again, whether that meant moving on or finding a way to rebuild with her. The journey ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it head-on. Whatever the outcome, I knew I'd emerge stronger on the other side. As the days turned into weeks, I committed myself to the journey of self-discovery. I started going to the gym regularly, something I hadn't prioritized in years. With every workout, I felt my body getting stronger, and it ignited a sense of empowerment I hadn't experienced since before everything fell apart. I also took up cooking, diving into new recipes and enjoying the satisfaction of creating something delicious from scratch. It was a welcome distraction and a way to channel my emotions into something productive. Emily continued to reach out, and I kept my distance. I felt guilty at times. After all, I had once shared my life with her, and it was hard to see her suffer. But I knew that engaging with her would only complicate my healing process. I needed to stay focused on myself, to rebuild my own narrative without her influence looming over me. One night, as I was chopping vegetables for dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from Mark. He invited me to join him and some friends for a weekend camping trip. I hesitated at first. The idea of being surrounded by nature and friends felt both exhilarating and daunting. But I realized it was a perfect opportunity to clear my head and reconnect with life outside of my current struggles. When the weekend arrived, I packed my bags and set out for the campsite. As we set up tents and gathered around the fire, I felt a sense of freedom wash over me. Surrounded by laughter and camaraderie, I began to feel like myself again, something that had eluded me for too long. We shared stories, roasted marshmallows, and indulged in the natural beauty surrounding us. I found myself opening up to Mark and the others about what I had been through. They listened intently, offering their support and reminding me that I was not alone in this journey. "You're stronger than you think, Jake," Mark said, clapping me on the shoulder as we sat around the fire. "You're taking control of your life, and that's something to be proud of." As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, I felt a sense of clarity. I realized I was ready to make a decision about Emily. I had spent enough time wallowing in the past, and now it was time to look forward. I wanted to explore the possibility of a future that didn't involve the confusion and heartbreak of our past relationship. When I returned home, I felt rejuvenated and determined. I decided to arrange a final meeting with Emily. I wanted to be honest about where I stood and what I envisioned for my future. I sent her a message, and we agreed to meet at a coffee shop. When I arrived, I felt a mix of nervousness and resolve. Emily looked up as I approached, her face a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. "Hey," I said, taking a seat across from her. "Hey," she replied, her voice soft. "Thanks for meeting me." "I wanted to talk about us," I began. "I've had time to think, and I need to be honest. I don't think we can go back to what we had. The trust is broken, and rebuilding it will take more than just talk. I've realized that I need to prioritize my happiness right now, and I can't do that while trying to navigate our past." Her expression faltered, and I could see the pain in her eyes. "I understand," she said quietly. "I've been doing so much reflecting too. I know I hurt you deeply, and I'm so sorry for that. I never wanted to lose you. I appreciate that, but I think it's best if we go our separate ways," I continued. "I need to focus on my own journey of healing and self-discovery. It's not fair to either of us to hold on to something that isn't working." Tears brimmed in her eyes, but I held my ground. "This doesn't mean I hate you or that I don't care for you," I added. "But I've learned that I need to put myself first, and I hope you can find that for yourself too." Emily wiped her tears and nodded, her voice trembling. "I know I've messed up, and I respect your decision. I just wish things could have been different." "Me too," I said, feeling a twinge of sadness for the dreams we once shared. "But I believe it's time for us to embrace new paths." We parted ways that day, and as I walked away from the cafe, I felt a mix of emotions: relief, sadness, but also a newfound sense of freedom. I had made the difficult choice to let go of the past, but I also felt hopeful about what lay ahead. In the weeks that followed, I focused on creating a life that felt authentic to me. I explored new hobbies, met new people, and even started dating again, though I took it slow. I learned to enjoy my own company and embrace the freedom that came with being single. I realized that the betrayal had not defined me. It had been a catalyst for growth. I was learning to love myself, and for the first time in a long while, I felt truly optimistic about the future. Looking back on my experience, I learned that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most rewarding outcomes. I had reclaimed my narrative, and while my journey was far from over, I was ready to embrace whatever came next, stronger and more self-aware than ever before. Life had a funny way of pushing you into the depths, only to reveal the strength you never knew you had. And as I walked forward, I carried that strength with me, ready to face whatever life had in store.